Alert, alert, alert. What Wyoming just did is not the future of money. This is the containment of money. Now, policy has just come out. Wyoming is the first state in the United States of America to officially have their state-backed stable coin crypto. Now listen, unless you have been reading obscure legislation and you are already in the finance, DeFi, entrepreneurship, expat industry, then you probably did not even realize that this happened, because I want to officially welcome you to lockdown phase 1. Now, they're not going to call it that, but Wyoming has literally just said they're going to have a state-backed crypto, which is basically a stable coin. This is a government-approved crypto that is going to be in place. They're not banning Bitcoin. They're replacing your freedom to choose it. So let's talk about this. Wyoming's new digital flex and what's really going on behind the scenes. Wyoming is not just home to Yellowstone and wide open skies anymore. It's been quietly positioning itself as the U.S. epicenter of blockchain infrastructure. We're talking DAO legislation, digital asset banks like Avanti, and now its very own state-sanctioned stablecoin. And this is not your typical stablecoin pilot project. Wyoming's new lockdown phase 1, as I like to call it, is a public-facing rollout of a type of CBDC, even though that's not what they're saying it is. And I'm just like, hello, can anybody see this? Does anybody see how this is lining up with Revelations 13 and the mark of the beast? This is why I've been saying unapologetically with my husband for 5 years, exit America now. You do not want to be in that country when this thing goes full throttle. Now, Wyoming is obviously just one state out of 50, but just imagine, because remember the big beautiful bill, remember the Clarity Act, remember the Genius Act, all of which end up critiquing and have something to do with both AI and crypto legislation in America. And this is why they want you to be so distracted. You know, we're so distracted with what the military has going on. We're so distracted with Russia, Ukraine, Europe, what President Trump is doing in cities that have a lot of crime. Like, there is too much going on. But you know, here on this channel, we have your back, and we're going to talk about these policies that matter, because at the end of the day, all of this is prophetic. All of this will come to pass, but you're either going to be on the good side of this or the bad side of this. The book of Proverbs actually states that a wise man sees trouble coming and he maneuvers himself out of the way. And so that's what we do here on this channel. Hit the like button, share this with 10 to 20 people, share this in every group, because I'm like, this should be hitting CNN. This should be hitting all the international news stations. The fact that Wyoming has its own stable coin, like what? So I want you to think about this like a digital dollar, but this time it's not federal, okay? And I know it sounds confusing. And to be quite honest with you, that's the point here, because buried inside the language is a digital leash, essentially. This behavioral compliance, programmable spending, and potentially even money that expires based on how you behave in America, based on, you know, what they're tracking, what you're doing, things of that nature, especially because they already passed the real ID in America. And, you know, we get people that are like, you think because you're abroad, you don't need a real ID. I'm like, gosh, you guys, some of you have no idea that we do not rely on America's system. I don't have a real ID, and I never will have one, okay? It just is what it is, okay? Now let's talk about stable coins versus CBDCs. And I want you to pay attention to our timeline again. If you have been on this channel, we are coming up on October when the EU is going to do their digital euro. Wyoming has their stable coin crypto, and they're saying, you know, President Trump came in and said, we're not going to do CBDCs. This is actually not it. And I just want you to pay attention to the language so that you can decide for yourself if this is it or not. Now, let's get something straight, okay? Stable coins were supposed to be the decentralized cousin of cash, backed by reserves, free from state control, and ideal for fast, borderless transactions. But Wyoming's rollout blurs these lines. What they've built is not just a stablecoin, it's the state-backed CBDC prototype America said that it was not ready for and was not going to do, and here's why. Let's look at traditional stablecoins versus the Wyoming-backed Wyoming Reserve stablecoin, okay? So if we look at both of these, they're both going to be backed by reserves, traditional stablecoins, and then the Wyoming coin. Now let's look at which coins are state-backed. Traditional stable coins, like just any type of crypto you have, this is stable coin like PayPal, RLUSD. These are not always necessarily federal or state-backed. You have stable coins that are not backed by the government in America. You have free-flowing coins that are just, they are what they are. They are DeFi, which is what is known as definance, like they're off of the system essentially. But this state-backed one for Wyoming is, of course, programmable, and it is not a private entity. It is state-backed. That's like what it means, okay? Now, let's talk about biometric and ID linking. For your regular stablecoins, those are typically not going to be linked to biometrics or ID linking, but this one can potentially do that. Right now, it's unknown if they're going to do it because we're in such the early stages. But if you've read Revelations 13, you already know what's coming. So you know that's coming down the pipeline, okay? And then surveillance being built in is also a possibility. We're in the very early stages where if you're wise, you're going to watch this space, subscribe to this channel, not only subscribe to this channel, but go open a Moo brokerage account, go read their articles and watch this space so that you can understand the policy and the language, because this language coincides with the scriptures so that you can understand what is coming. At the end of the day, you cannot watch and pray unless you are actually watching and then you know what to pray about, right? And again, they're not going to call it a CBDC, and they don't have to, because that's exactly how it's being structured. Over here on this side of the internet, we are critical thinkers, smart people. You don't have to call it whatever vocabulary you don't want to call it. We're going to read your fruits by the behavior and what is actually being rolled out. Phase 1 is to get trust from you. Phase 2 is the ultimate control. And this is where it gets potentially dangerous, where you're going to see Americans that will not be able to leave the US because they are pegged to this new social credit system. They are pegged to this new Wyoming stablecoin. Maybe they're going to do an Ohio stablecoin. They might do a Florida stablecoin. Then, of course, you have like the federal government that's going to do their stablecoin, potentially with RLUSD. And this does not mean that you should not invest, but I want you to be aware. And I do not want you to see investing in this stuff is like, this is my only way out. Like I have to like level up your skill sets. And I actually wrote a blog for you down below on the 30 consulting contracts you can get in the age of AI. We have done an incredible business pivot in the last month, like just fantastic. And we actually went ahead and documented that guide so that we can share that with you so that you can also get your tech contracts and start your tech business, okay? Because that's what you're going to need to be able to invest and move freely and get your residence permits in other countries. Now remember, this potential lockdown is essentially going to lock down your money choices, lock down who you can send what to, and lock down what qualifies as a valid transaction, which is also going to block you from potentially leaving America should you stay in America past the year 2027. So I want you to imagine a world where your digital coin won't work on certain platforms because of your carbon footprint score, or even worse, your medical status. It expires if not spent in 30 days to stimulate the economy. And you know what? This sounds pretty dystopian. And you know it is, because guess what? China's already doing it, and it is coming to Europe next and America as well. Now, let's talk about from cash to code. Your freedom is literally being rewritten. The Wyoming coin isn't about financial innovation, okay? It's about compliance innovation. And here's what is actually at risk. Privacy, because every transaction on a government ledger is visible, traceable, and stored forever, period. As in everything that you purchase with your Wyoming stablecoin. It's public knowledge, public information that somebody can pull up a computer, a database, and see it everywhere. This is going to be the benefit of moving to sub-Saharan Africa and the global south in cash-based economies, period. We say that 50 million times, and I'm gonna say it 50 million more times for those of you that are going to understand and listen, because we are here to come back for that one person that's gonna take this information and it's literally going to change their life, and it's gonna change the way that they view prophecy, and it's going to change the way that they create a legacy for their family outside of these systems. Now, Adanami, what do you think happens when your money has conditions baked into it? It can't be spent overseas, it can't buy gold, can't support certain charities. It's a little crazy, right? And then it also messes up your savings integrity. If money can be reprogrammed, then inflation isn't your only worry. Expiration dates and spending limits are now potentially going to be on the table. And nobody's talking about it. Like, why? Because it's not coming from the Fed. This rollout is state-based, okay? Marketed as innovation and nestled with financial sandbox language. This makes it very difficult to detect. This makes it very difficult to bypass if you are in America or even the Americas, basically. But let's connect the dots here. Let's make this all make sense. So we know Wyoming has launched their new stable coin. A state-backed stable coin that is directly tied to the government of Wyoming. I like to call it lockdown phase 1, okay? PayPal has also pushed RLUSD, which is a regulated US dollar pegged stable coin crypto. Stable coin, think crypto, okay? And then FedNow is already live for instant settlements. And the Trump Digital Asset Task Force is finalizing a strategic Bitcoin reserve because President Donald Trump has stated with his chest and said America is going to be the crypto capital of the world. And what that essentially is saying is America, Babylon the Great, is going to be the beast system capital of the world. Okay? And this is why expats, entrepreneurs, and digital nomads should care. You might be thinking, oh, I don't live in Wyoming. Ma'am, sir, neither do I. I don't live in Wyoming either, okay? But this is why you should care. This is not about geography anymore. This is about precedent, because this is crazy. Once this is successful and is going completely compliant, other states are gonna follow, federal support will solidify, and global alignment will accelerate. Think about the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and BRICS, okay? If you're abroad or running a location-independent business through the U.S. banking system, these policies will touch you for a surety. Stablecoin surveillance is geo-fenced but globally enforced. So here's what I want you to watch out for phase 2. You're going to see mandatory wallet onboarding for state services, tax incentive programs linked to digital asset compliance, pilot spending limitations under ECG guidelines, social benefit distribution via the Wyoming Coin. And what begins as being optional will quickly morph into exclusivity. You want the benefit? Use the coin. You want the permit? Go ahead and use that wallet. Whoo, child. You know, I would hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't see nobody else on the internet talking about this in as much practical detail as we do here on this channel. Because listen, I'm a finance marketing specialist. I'm an AI engineer in marketing. I see behind the scenes. Think of me as your Joseph in these systems, watching how things are moving with a prophetic lens, like, oh, this is switching over here. Oh, okay, this is switching over there. Let me go tell the folks, let me go tell the people, let me go tell the family of believers so that they know how to maneuver in the last days, okay? Listen, Financial Reset is already live, dressed in compliance-friendly language and cowboy state charm. And I do not want you to get caught flat-footed, because by the time they announce a national CBDC, you're already going to be transacting in its prototype. And if you want to future-proof your marketing and your finance, go to www.txdr.com www.tiffygrights.co. Subscribe to the channel. We have over 55 videos available for you, over 80 new members who get the behind the scenes where we break down what we're investing in, what we're not investing in, when we sell, when we buy. And guess what? You know we are not financial advisors. This is here for educational purposes, but we can show you what we have done and what our journey is like, so you can take that data, apply it to your journey, and do your own comprehensive research, okay? So again, we help finance educators, expats, and sovereign-minded founders craft magnetic messaging and retention strategy that keeps clients coming in any system, even in a reset economy. Let's talk. www.tiffygrights.co. If you are interested in anything else that we provide on this channel, check out the links in the description. Share this with somebody who needs this. Shalom, shalom. I'm going to see you in the next video. Be blessed. Make sure you do your prayer journal, because this end time stuff, this is a lot. I'll see you next time.